Shalom Chavrim, I'm Steve Ben-Nun. You're watching Israeli News Live. And friends, we're going to have to reschedule tomorrow our planned broadcast tonight on the traitors of Israel. We're just about finished preparing it, but the situation is escalating inside of Israel, inside of Syria, with Israel saying that the Iranians are moving weapons. That was near Damascus. Syria at 9:45 p.m. local time, residents near Golan say at least 3 missiles fired from Israel flew over Quneitra province heading east. Intense aerial activity also reported. There are multiple jets over the skies of Israel. There's also a tanker, an Israeli tanker that is above in the skies there to refuel the F-15s that Israel is using right now. Israel Breaking is reporting that Israeli airstrike reportedly targeting Iranian weapons convoy bombed near Damascus in Syria. That's some of the first images that are coming out thus far. What we're seeing here, Pentagon officials are saying they're seeing signs that Iran might be preparing to strike Israel from Syria. This follows similar reporting that we have seen for the past 3 days from Israel and Syria. It looks like that this is what Washington has been waiting for, is an excuse to be able to take down Syria. Iran also, General Wesley Clark, as you guys know, has stated before that these nations would be taken down. That's something we got to always keep in mind. And I didn't look at General Wesley Clark as much a few years back as I do now, because it's just obvious everything the man said is actually happening. Haaretz is reporting as well. Syria says Israel struck near Damascus as IDF opens shelters, bracing for Iranian attack. Syrian air defenses down 2 Israeli missiles. Syrian state TV reports Israel believes Iran planning imminent attacks, opens public shelters in the north. This is what we're being told by Haaretz. Israeli soldiers sit atop a tank as they watch the border with Syria near Quneitra border crossing between Israel and Syria. This is something that you can easily see from the lookout point there where these guys are sitting at there, because just to the mountain, to the if you're sitting where they're facing there, to their left is the actual lookout mountain that's over Quneitra. We've actually filmed the fighting directly when the Syrian war was already a few years old, and it's going on in this battle. I think back in 2015 or 2016, we were reporting that. Pro-Assad commander said Israeli fighter jets struck Syria army positions south of Damascus, adding that there were no casualties. Syrian state media reported that Syrian air defenses fired at 2 Israeli missiles, destroying both in the Kiswa area. Now, it's interesting, once again, the Syrian military is being struck at the same time that Israel is speaking about targeting the Iranians moving weapons inside of inside of Syria. So there is a bit of concern about this, but yet at the same time, to me, it's just the project, the expansion of this one-state solution. I'm going to go to my PowerPoint just for a moment there. I want to share some things with you guys here. Let's just jump back up here. Again, remember Mike Evans there was Israel's 9th president, Shimon Peres, together meeting with Pope Francis, His Holiness, and thanked him for his friendship and support for the Jewish people in a state of one. Again, it looks like that Rome's hand for a one-state solution, which is exactly what President Trump is speaking about when we saw this on the Times of Israel back on February 15, 2017. Trump rolls back U.S. obligation to 2 states, tells Netanyahu to hold back on settlements. And of course, now, as we already know, the president's leaked plan once again is calling for Israelis to be moving out of 4 of the neighborhoods in East Jerusalem. So it's, I'm telling you, it just so much seems that this is a Vatican plan to begin with. And for some reason, they feel like that Syria's got to be taken down. They want this jihadist government in there. And this is part of what we'll be building in this presentation. We'll be sharing with you guys there, going into all of this. How did the British in 1953 came in, toppled Iran, toppled a secular, democratically elected government in Iran, and instead put in their crazy, radical Shiite government, which they have still to this day, and then they are all complaining about it and they want to take it out and put something else in there. It seems like anything that's got some secularization in the Middle East, they just got to destroy it. And that's what happened to Iran back in 1953 when women had freedom, and now they don't. And they're wanting to take that away also in Syria because the women can be free there, and they don't like that idea. Just a really trouble to begin with. And also, like I mentioned before, too, you have both China and Erdogan calling for their embassies to be in East Jerusalem and to be in a capital of the Palestinians. That was part of the plan. That is part of the Pope's plan. This is what Shimon Peres was working on from the very beginning, was for exactly that. And of course, Prime Minister Netanyahu meeting with the Pope of Rome only shows that furtherment of that plan. We're going to get into a lot of this. It's really very, very deep, what we're going to share with you on this part here. That's what I think is really going down right now. Now, these developments are breaking as we speak. It is an ongoing, showing everything that's happening there, ongoing. Let's see, Israeli missile strike in Damascus countryside. We'll kind of real quick take a look here. Maybe, yeah, they're showing video footage of this now. So you can see in the background, let me kind of blow this up for you guys. It doesn't give me a full screen availability. Let's just blow up the image in for you guys so you can see it a little bit better if we're able to do this. Let's back that up. Too big. Let's zoom down to 300 here. You can just see the fire in the background. This is the countryside of Damascus. We're looking at some of the very first images coming out, and that's secular Syria, who has actually posted this video here. So much we do appreciate her actually posting that, and she is one of the people there that we keep and following there inside of Syria, trying to get an idea of what's going on as things are developing on the ground. And let's go back to the latest just so we can see, again, it's giving us a bird's eye view. When you're really looking at the latest of things happening, especially on Twitter, you can really find out what's going on in a hurry. Alleged airstrikes reported in Syria after IDF sounds alarm in the north. There again, we have another photo there. This is the Times of Israel. They're showing photos as well. And Syrian state media report on Tuesday night that Israel conducted an airstrike south of Damascus in an area previously identified as the site of suspected Iranian military base. Syria's official Sana news outlet said that the country air defenses intercepted 2 Israeli missiles over the El Kiswa area south of Damascus. The report did not specify how many missiles were fired. The alleged strike came hours after the Israeli military said it had identified the abnormal movements of Iranian forces in Syria and called for local governments in the Golan Heights to open their bomb shelters. Israel claiming that they expect a retaliatory measures by Iran from Syria. Now, we already know that Israel has promised that if Iran strikes Israel from Syria, that Israel is going to assassinate President Bashar al-Assad. Now, Israel does have the bunker busters in their own arsenals as well, and has very much the capability, even if the the president of Syria were to be underground, they do know how to target him unless they move him to a secret location. It was not immediately clear that, according to the article, what was targeted in the strike. Some Arab media outlets reported that weapons cache was destroyed. Others claimed it was communication equipment. The Al Mayadeen news outlet, which is seen and is sympathetic to be Hezbollah, reported that fires had broken out in the area following the blast. Now, when they say the communication equipment, that's actually incorrect. We covered that earlier on the broadcast today. Russian and Syria forces took out the communication equipment that Israel's allegedly had placed in through the jihadists near Dara, but that was actually, the original video for that is on the 7th, so that was yesterday that this was actually taking place there. Official with the Iran-led Axis of Resistance told the Associated Press the strike targeted a Syrian army position and caused only material damage. He spoke on condition of anonymity because he was not authorized to give an official statement there. So the Iranians' non-official status there, claiming that it is actually the Syrian military that was actually targeted. So we'll just have to wait to see exactly how that plays out. We just kind of say we can't pick up anything else here that is going on. I do apologize because of the situation that's happening in Israel. We wanted to bring to you tonight our in-depth story that we will be sharing with you here on Israeli News Live, and we're going to try to bring that out tomorrow. But just very concerned about what's going to be coming next. The Prime Minister Netanyahu, as well as the Defense Minister Lieberman, have been giving pretty much a free ticket to launch a war, and with the U.S. backing there, you got to keep in mind, you can't help but wonder sometimes if Israel is not doing the work for the U.S. And of course, the U.S. is doing this for the Vatican because they want that new world order. They're trying to get this up and going, and for some reason, it seems that Syria is in the way of doing this. I'm just imagining when are the Saudis going to step in. The IDF alerts Golan residents over abnormal Iranian movement in Syria. Army deploys air defense system in northern Israel, tells authorities to open bomb shelters. Again, the Times of Israel reporting yet another story on that right there. I have a feeling it could end up being a very, very tense night tonight, especially if Israel continues the strikes inside of Syria. We're going to just quickly jump over here, look at the Golan, just run that as a search subject here. We're getting more Israeli army reinforcements arrive in Ain Qaniya, town of the Golan Heights there. They're showing images of this here. So Israel is definitely getting ready for a much larger confrontation. And it's just kind of strange how this is all playing out. So Syria Live View map is showing that information there, moving in more artillery. But Israel was already moving the artillery up into this region already as of yesterday. As we showed earlier, they were already moving in air defense systems there. So it's just a matter of what's going to come next. Very, very, very tense situation going on right now. Let's run up Damascus, and we'll see what we can get on the latest going on in Damascus there. Fox News also saying Syria TV reports Israeli attack near the capital of Damascus. Fox Now also reporting this situation that's going on the ground. We're getting a little bit more photos here of what's happening there on the ground in Syria. Let's see, we can actually go to a link here just to see. They're not. Let's see, Syrian air defense repel Israeli air attack near Damascus. Well, as from the looks of the photos, it didn't repel everything, that's for sure, because we are certainly seeing some of these missiles have definitely hit targets inside of Damascus there. Syrian Sana reports that air defense systems intercepted at least 2 missiles fired at the Al-Qaswa area. Russia is also talking about not supplying Assad with this S-300 system. No doubt Russia probably worked out a deal with Prime Minister Netanyahu on backing off on that agreement. Whether or not that will change or not, I do not know. Will Russia actually come to the aid of Syria in this type of situation? It almost seems to be that this is exactly what Rome wants. And I know a lot of people probably think Rome always wants peace. They want peace. Well, wait till tomorrow. You'll see what really goes on. So I can't really get into all of that at this particular time because it's a little bit more difficult in a case like this here. Nothing else says Iran is placing weapons in Syria for our destruction. And I mean, the demonization of Iran is certainly great. And you know, let me tell you something too. One person had made a comment earlier in the broadcast that we did here about Ahmadinejad, and that his comment was mistranslated when he said he wanted to wipe Israel off the face of the map or either drop them into the sea. I forget which one it was. And that is true. Ahmadinejad did not actually say that. It was a mistranslation of the Arabic language and what he said. But there is ongoing rhetoric between the two nations, and Iran getting angry, saying that they will target Tel Aviv or they will target Haifa if Israel strikes them. And Iran saying we will retaliate at our own time and choosing. So, and Iran has promised that they would retaliate for the 14 soldiers that they had that were killed there inside of Syria when Israel struck the air base over there off of Lebanon's border. So, yeah, there is a threat for Israel still, but if you look at it, Israel has continued to attack the Iranians inside of Syria, saying that there is the threat. I realize Israel does not want the Iranians on their border. I understand that. But at the same time, you got to realize, too, you know, you keep poking at them, and yeah, that's what they're going to do. They're going to strike. But it goes back. Listen, let's pull up General Wesley Clark again, because, you know, this is what it all comes down to. And it's almost like they've stuck Israel out on a fishing hook here to get Israel to be able to drive Iran into retaliating. I mean, think about how many times do you think if we're as Americans and we have Americans over in Syria, how many times do you think that America would tolerate the Russians bombing our servicemen and killing them before America would retaliate? Zero. We know this for a fact because when the United States, when Russian embedded amongst the Syrian loyalists over near Deir ez-Zor, when they took and these were Russian, mercenaries, when they decided to attack a Free Syrian Army base where Americans were at, the United States sent an overwhelming force that killed, according to one report from Russia, 14 Russian mercenaries. According to U.S. estimates, 200 Russians were killed. All right, see, the U.S. doesn't tolerate it either. So, yes, I understand Israel doesn't want Iran inside of Syria, but Iran has been there trying to destroy ISIS in Syria. And this is something that we got to also take into consideration. And Russia promised Israel they would not allow Iran near their border. I think they said within 10 kilometers. Israel wanted it within 50 kilometers, not to be near their border. And of course, Russia has allowed Israel to strike Iranian targets when they feel like they're moving stuff over to Hezbollah. So there's been a balance in there. But then again, and I'm not saying that this is the right thing, I'm just telling you, if Iran continues to get attacked and attacked and attacked again and again and again and again, yeah, they're going to retaliate. But here's why, though. You have to know why there's going to be a retaliation. And this is what people don't seem to remember. Listen to General Wesley Clark here.
I went through the Pentagon and I saw Secretary Rumsfeld and Deputy Secretary Wolfowitz. I went downstairs just to say hello to some of the people on the Joint Staff who used to work for me. And one of the generals called me and he said, "Sir, you got to come in. You got to come in and talk to me a second." I said, "Well, you're too busy." He said, No. He says, "We've made the decision. We're going to war with Iraq." This was on or about the 20th of September. I said, "We're going to war with Iraq. Why?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "I guess they don't know what else to do." So I said, "Well, did they find some information connecting Saddam to Al-Qaeda?" He said, No. He says, "There's nothing new that way. They just made the decision to go to war with Iraq." He said, I guess it's like we don't know what to do about terrorists, but we got a good military and we can take down governments. And he said, I guess if the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem has to look like a nail. So I came back to see him a few weeks later. And by that time we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, are we still going to war with Iraq? And he said, oh, it's worse than that. He said, he reached over on his desk, he picked up a piece of paper. He said, I just got this down from upstairs, meaning the Secretary of Defense's office today. And he said, this is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran.
All right, now how do we did we miss anything here, guys? We're going to take out 7 nations. Syria is included, Lebanon, Sudan, and Sudan's in a turmoil as it is. I haven't had a chance to report on Sudan and what's going on. Let me tell you something. One thing that General Wesley Clark says here, the general tells him, I guess if every problem looks like a nail, we have to have a hammer. Come on. There's an agenda for what they're doing. And notice the Middle Eastern nations are taking out. And by the way, I want to show you something else on this PowerPoint I was putting together. Remember how I showed you that, let's see, back, here it is right here. China and Turkey talk about setting up, well, Turkey says they're going to set up an embassy in East Jerusalem. China echoes called the East Jerusalem capital of an independent Palestine. I have a feeling the way that they're going to do this is that embassies in this New World Order and Jerusalem, the old city of Jerusalem, actually being the New World Order headquarters, I have a feeling that if your country is from the Western Hemisphere, you will be in West Jerusalem as your embassy. If you are from the Eastern Hemisphere, you will be in East Jerusalem with your embassy. I think that's what they're really doing that for. And if you've noticed, even President Zeman from the president of the Czech Republic, he's talking about putting the embassy in West Jerusalem. Why? Because he's on the west side. Some of the countries there from South America, all of them looking at on the Israeli side. Why? It's odd. Everybody from the Western Hemisphere wants to be on Israel's side, and everybody on the Eastern Hemisphere is going to be on the East Jerusalem side. And I think that has a lot to do with the New World Order. And the Pope of Rome, in every document you can find, gets the old city. I mean, you guys, geez. Let me see. There's one other thing. Let me see if I can play this clip for you here. Here's an interesting one for you. Let me just play this right here. This is Barry Chamish, and he's being asked about Netanyahu and how he comes to power. Listen to what he has to say.
Netanyahu
we're going to have to hold it because you guys are not going to hear that well enough. I'll have to figure out a different way to make this where you guys can hear this later. A lot of different things that are going on. And, I'm going to be sharing with you as well the ringworm children. This is the documentary, but Barry Chamish brings out about the ringworm children much deeper than what the documentary does here. This is where the Israeli government permitted testing on the Sephardic children that were coming from northern Africa. My father is from Morocco, is where he's from. He was a Sephardic Jew as well, living in his family, that is, descendants of his family, living in northern Africa there. But the ones that actually went back to Israel, they were used in an experiment, because it's the only way that the U.S. would allow the technology to go to Israel so that they could get a nuclear bomb, which Israel is reported to have 80 nuclear bombs. And that's another reason why I realize, and even as Phil Kirshner brought out on our broadcast the other day, Israel still reserves that right of the Samson option that is available to them. And, so Israel if Israel really felt like that they were going to be hit hard and defeated, Israel is going to, just like Putin, Putin has already said, he said, if I can't win the nuke's already on board. All right, so we got to keep this in mind that Israel's got some pretty heavy, power in behind them. Besides the fact the United States backing them, and I really believe that Russia would come to Israel's aid as well. You got to remember, Putin knows he's got 2 million of his own citizens living there in Israel as Israeli citizens. Which, by the way, there's a whole new case that came out recently where the Israeli government put the Russian Jews into houses that were built with asbestos, and they started getting cancer. This goes back to the ringworm children issue too. In other words, if you're not an Ashkenazi Jew, you kind of get thrown under the bus just a little bit. Very, very troubling. Let's look again real quick. Let's see what's going on. Sorry, there's Dr. Pigeon there. Get the right button here. And let's just see what we got going on here. Okay. We can jump out of here real quick there. Let me see who we get a message from. Not as Lorenzo had already happened. I've got him kind of keeping an eye out for us here as well on what's breaking right now over here in the Middle East there. Let's just see if there is any new results that is happening. Israel just attacked Iran targets in Syria. That's top. Let's go to the latest. And just to try to find out if there's anything else going on. All right, now we've got this coming out as well. This is on the new news. That's an interesting. Okay, never mind. Israel bombs Syria. Israel launches airstrikes on Syria moments after Donald Trump scraps Iran nuclear deal amid fears of surprise attack. Israel unlocks bomb shelters and readies missile defense system amid fears of an attack from Iranian-backed forces in Syria. According to the article here, Israel has bombed a Syrian military base after fearing an attack from Iranian-backed forces moments after Donald Trump pulled out of the disastrous nuclear deal. That's something I was not aware of as of yet. The Jewish state launched rockets at a base in Kisweh area south of Damascus after detecting irregular activity of Iranian forces in Syria. There have been no casualties following the Israeli missile attack. Pro-Syrian commander told Reuters. A Syrian state news agency, Sana, had reported the sound of explosions near Kisweh and said Syrian air defenses fired at and destroyed 2 Israeli missiles. The Israeli army has opened civilian bomb shelters in the Golan Heights. All these things we already are aware of there. So this is from what we're seeing now that President Trump has actually already backed out of the deal.
Než vyrazíte do přírody, stavte se ve čtvrtek v Lidlu pro novou kolekci.
Let's see what we might get on their video footage here, if anything, after they get past their advertisement here. We'll jump back over here in Damascus, see if we have still anything else going on in Damascus. Looks like this is going to be about it for now, guys. We may drop out of this for the time being there, waiting to see what else happens. Of course, for us, it's very late at night here, so I may not be seeing anything else anyway. And there we go. That's the same video we showed you guys when it first came out. That's all that they're showing right now anyway. I'm Steve Benoon. You guys are watching Israeli News Live. Hopefully, we can come back to the situation that's going on, and hopefully this does not spin out of control come tomorrow. I don't know. Very troubling indeed. And we'll just have to wait to see what happens. If by chance I get this information put together tomorrow, the rest of this information for the broadcast here will go live with that tomorrow night. if we end up with more issues during the night tonight, we'll be changing. Kind of stay tuned. You guys, of course, will be up late tonight, I'm sure. I'll be back up early in the morning just to see if there's anything else happening, and then we can update you guys as we go there. Anyway, shalom, shalom to all of you guys that are watching tonight. Don't forget to thumbs up the video there so that more and more people will be able to pick up the broadcast here, and also to recognize what we're trying to do here, keeping people abreast of the things that are happening in the Middle East there, trying to be more objective. I do love my people in Israel very much, and of course, but for me, I'm also for humanity. I'm not just I'm not into the warmongering scene there, but I realize Israel wants to defend themselves, and that is something that has to be done, but it's just too odd of a situation. Makes you wonder. And of course, it doesn't help with Trump pulling out of the nuclear deal. I realize it was not the best deal in the world, but who knows? Iran does the same thing Israel does. Israel threatens Abbas over the actions of the Iranians. And at the same time, Iran does a similar situation too. If you do this to us, and we're going to attack the civilians that live in Tel Aviv. And I'm always wondering, why is it that everybody wants to target the innocents? What do the innocent people got to do with all this? Anyway, Steve Ben-Nun with Israeli News Live. Again, don't forget to thumbs up the video so people will see more about what's going on. Shalom, shalom, and good evening.